Hello, everyone. Welcome to the October 2024 UTXO Alliance Town Hall. We have a good, brief meeting today. On the agenda, UTXO in the news, a look over our activity board, an update on the UTXO Models Handbook from Ignacio, open mic, and breakout rooms. To go down the list, here's what's found to be most relevant in the UTXO Alliance ecosystem. And this is, of course, non-exhaustive, but a good highlight of the overview. From Alethium, Maud appeared on The Defiant, a great podcast as an interview. It's worth checking out. I will put the link into the chat. And there's a weekly dev update that you can also find here. Let me make sure that you can actually see what we're talking about here. And I'll put that into the chat so we can follow along. Two worthwhile updates from Alethium, worth checking out. From Cardano, Midnight Testnet is live. This is the privacy ZK sidechain from Cardano, or at least operable within Cardano. Project Catalyst launches Fund 13. 50 million ADA are available for projects from a concept, product, open ecosystem, developer ecosystem, and partners categories. It's worth checking out. The deadline for submission is October 9th. And also please check out the Catalyst Horizons report, an update about Catalyst from around the ecosystem. From Digibyte, there will be a live update today on the how-to series at 10 p.m. CET from Digibyte with Renzo. From Ergo Hack 9 will occur between October 25th and the 31st. And I have yet to find the link, but there was a conversation with Nervos on Twitter Space this past week. I will link to that as soon as possible. Hoping to get an update from Fractal, but we will skip and go to Horizon Labs for now. The Zen USD was launched on Horizon EON network, launching the stablecoin. Big update from the Horizon Labs team. From Komodo, on October 5th, Komodo blockchain upgraded, or will upgrade, sorry, that's to happen in the future, to the Drogon version, and there's a report on that. Nervos, the CKB conference is in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, November 9th. And again, in conversation with Ergo this past week, a really worthwhile conversation there. Quai Network, 14 days to the final testnet, something worth checking out as Quai nears its final testnet before launching in mainnet later this year. Topple preparing for a public launch of BTC Bridge. Wolfram Blockchain Labs, a proposal is being submitted to Project Catalyst Fund 13 on voting power index. This is an agnostic voting power index that could be used to measure centralization in voting systems for any weighted voting system. University of Zurich hosted the fourth blockchain Kaiji in Zurich, hoping to get an update on how that went. And Zengate hosted a conversation on their podcast from IOG's Hydra product lead, which was a very worthwhile conversation. I'll pause there. If I got anything materially off or wrong and any update that you'd like to provide, please come off mute, or sorry, raise your hand and we will give you the floor. Can I see if anybody has a hand raised? Any other updates that'd like to be provided from our various ecosystems? Please raise your hand and you will have the floor.
I was trying to figure out how to raise my hand, but sorry about that. From the Nervo side, the CKB fiber testnet launched this month, which is a Lightning compatible payment channel network. So yeah, just excited about what that might mean for extending channels to be networks, like interconnecting networks on these different chains. It seems like a design pattern that actually can work for cross-chain things. So yeah, excited to see people building channel networks on other chains and how these things can all connect together.
Excellent. That feels like that would be a good project for us to focus on in a technical working group. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. Who else? Any other updates? All right. We're going to do a special report update from Ignacio. I have shared on screen here a PDF report of the current version of our UTXO models handbook. Ignacio, would you mind coming off mute and just sharing a few minutes about what this is, what's here, what's to come, and how we can get everyone involved?
Yeah, for sure, Steph. Um, well, thanks, and hi, everyone. So, as part of the content management or content creation group helping the UTXO Alliance, we set the goal of creating visuals to explain and simplify the core concepts of how UTXOs work and how blockchains based on UTXOs operate. So this is the first version of a handbook that includes all of this flowchart. So if, for instance, Steph maybe can, yeah, keep scrolling at that speed. So the goal of this handbook is, as I've said, to simplify the explanation of the UTXO model, and we wanted to be playful using the analogy of, hey, let's break out the core concepts of a UTXO-based blockchain, and let's use the analogy that these things are ingredients, much like an ice cream factory. We can create different flavors of ice cream. We can also create different flavors of UTXO blockchains. The core recipe might be similar. So then we have the key ingredients being cryptographic primitives. We simplify explanation of hash functions, digital signatures. Then we jump on what are transactions, what are blocks, and then what's the chain. We use the analogy of Bitcoin being the vanilla flavor of UTXOs. So it'll be vanilla of ice creams, but in our case, it will be the vanilla of UTXOs. And then from that recipe, we can start seeing the different pieces, the different components that vary from blockchain to blockchain who are part of the UTXO Alliance. And hopefully this would be an appealing way of understanding, I mean, for a general audience with minimal technical proficiency. So what we have in the blockchain, as I've said, there's the first pages talk about, okay, few paragraphs about blockchains. The language that I'm using is a lot more intuitive rather than technical or a textbook language. And then I jump into, okay, core ingredients of blockchain. And then we introduce our vanilla flavor, which is a Bitcoin's UTXO blockchain. I state the original goals of Bitcoin, and then highlight the limitations, which are scalability, limited smart contract functionality, tons of energy consumption, which then becomes the starting point to talk about what are the new innovations that different UTX Alliance members bring to the table. So there we have Cardano with proof of stake, formal verification, and scalability solutions. Then there is Ergo blockchain that also brings the extended UTXO model and lots of advanced cryptography. Nervous network with a layered architecture and a cell model, and so on and so forth. The goal is to keep populating this handbook using simple explainers for all UTX Alliance members. Oh, I also have to mention that this is the outcome of last month technical working group where I sat down with some of the folks from the UTX Alliance to validate and point out technical inaccuracies in some of these charts. This still needs some refinement, but this is version 1 of the handbook. Ultimately, this could be a presentation card, with a easy summary of all UTXO chains in a nice visual, digestible, explained it in a digestible way. Yeah, so maybe the last thing to mention is there will be some time dedicated to keep working on this on technical working groups. So the one happening sooner is in 2 weeks from now. I will make Discord posts so everyone is in sync and I know who's showing up, so I can prepare ahead. Okay, which of these flowcharts we will be dissecting, and yeah, eventually the goal is to have the right balance of technical accuracy, but also not overcomplicate the visuals, so it is still appealing for a general audience. Yeah, this is accessible, will be accessible in PDF as well as in a shareable Google Doc. I'll share everything in Discord. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves.
Yeah, so what's the next kind of stage? I mean, we need to get all UTXO Alliance members represented in this handbook. So obviously, we're going to pursue those in each of the working groups, but it really helps when we have kind of a representative member from that chain to kind of go back and forth with. But this is to ultimately represent all chains. Is that correct?
Yeah, as I've minimally mentioned, it is intended to represent all chains and be this presentation card for the UTX Alliance. So maybe it will have many uses that we haven't thought about initially, but perhaps it's a good presentation card. Yeah, that with visuals, I think that makes everything more appealing. So,
And are these
yeah,
visuals available for others to use in their own writings, blog posts, Twitter posts, things like that? Are the visuals open source and available in a, can we make them available in a shared document?
yes. Thanks for bringing that up, Steph. So indeed, all the figures are open source, and if it is handy for any UTX Alliance member, uh, then yeah, that'll be great. So I can make everything accessible. We have a GitHub, so maybe that's a place where I can populate these images. But yeah, if people want to use this for their individual Twitter posts or blog posts or whatever, then that's great as well.
Great. Any questions? All right, well, we will share the link right after this.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
make
you,
sure
Ignacio.
to share that on chat.
Great. Okay, so that was the special report from the UTXO Flavors Department. All right, so over the past 3 months, we successfully delivered our milestone 2 into Project Catalyst, which was to deliver on our content obligations. One of the major results of this over the past 3 months was a 30% increase in Twitter followers from a little less than 700 to now we're about to cross the 1,000 follower mark. A lot of this has been driven by our sharing of town hall recordings. One person here that requires a shout out is Jose from Digibyte. Jose's been great in sharing the town hall recordings, mentioning things about it, tagging the UTXO Alliance in a lot of conversations. So big shout out to Jose. Thank you for doing that. So that drives some traction. Further, other things that have been driving some traction are we have some blog posts going up in Medium. Let me put this into chat so that everyone can see this. These are these explainer posts about what the UTXO model is, how it works, how we're thinking about it. Another thing driving a lot of content and awareness are our Twitter content strategies. We've executed on 4 so far. Nervos, Alethium, Quai, Zengate, and Wolfram Blockchain Labs will do one beginning next week. These are 5-day Twitter posts that explain something about our member chain, but also why the UTXO model. And then it finishes with a Twitter space on the 5th day. So we've seen increase in followers, impressions, engagement rates, and likes, and we are now off to continue delivering on milestone 3, which is essentially a increase in the same type of production from milestone 2. Now on the activity board, so that was the milestone 2 completion report that was shared in the chat. The next up for the content group is to deliver the Wolfram 5-day content strategy beginning October 7th. Right now, we'd like to take a volunteers. Who's next? This would be to follow the pattern of what the previous teams have done, create 5 days worth of tweets, and then schedule a Twitter space. All of the distribution is handled by the content team. So what needs to be completed from a representative chain is a kind of the tweets that you would want to go out. So do we have any volunteers in the chat for that?
Yeah, from my side, yeah, we want to volunteer, but it's just going to take me a while to pull together the content. I've got some ideas for it, but I want to coordinate content from people who are experts on the extended UTXO model, on Hydra, on other bits and pieces as well. So it's just kind of pulling the narrative together, putting a draft, then running it through the various iterations we'll need to do of that. So yeah, I'm not promising we're going to be able to turn that around really quickly, but we are on the list to do it at some point. Put it that way.
Excellent. Great. Okay, so the next available slots would be starting October 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. Ideally, it would be one of those. Do you foresee being able to do it by
I would say
one of
let's
those?
go for October the 28th because we're in this weird planning mode at the moment, so it's going to be tricky to afford. Okay, but I'll try and aim for that date.
Great. And Ignacio has been working on Hydra visualizations and explainers. So there could be a whole few days worth, day or two's worth of tweets that come from that direction. So Ignacio, if you can connect with Rupert, that would be excellent.
No, that's great. And I've been talking to him about this as well, as a good opportunity to promote Hydra further in a new context. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to join the dots on all of this.
Great. And then we should have a few clips that are available to use from the Lars conversation that we just had. Lars is the director of education at IOG. Ignacio and I were just in conversation with Lars 2 weeks ago. That conversation is being clipped up, so those could be useful in explaining UTXO model or kind of various things in that direction. So we'd be happy to provide those clips, and that can be maybe a thinking point or like the main card of the first tweet of anything. So we'll provide that as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, if you can send anything like that through, and also just remind where that's being shared when it gets shared, that'd be good as well.
Definitely.
Cool.
Okay, so great. So another set of things on the activity board are for the operations group. One, Jose, may I ask that you mute, please? Or I can do that here. One thing on the operations group is standard operating procedures. So one, to that degree, we have a template for how one can operate in a working group setting. This is when you arrive to a working group session, you kind of outline who you are, what type of work you're working on, and then either the work that's been accomplished or work that's to be accomplished by somebody else. These types of things are a good way for us to bridge between meetings in case people aren't there at each one, or if people are looking to complete certain activities that they've already been produced and outlined by one of the members. Another thing to fall into that category is now we're looking at leadership applications. So this would be a paid position. There's potentially 3 positions available. This is for the content operations and technical working groups. And what I'm looking for from this is somebody to review and make notes or suggestions to this application that we'll eventually share outwardly and try to gather some interest for taking on leadership roles inside of the UTXO Alliance. The budget from this would come from the other half of the milestone or from Project Catalyst milestones. And we're targeting anywhere between $50 and $90 per hour for these positions. So this is something that is potentially worthwhile. There may be a limit on number of hours required to work per month or per week, so that we kind of maintain a level of attendance, a level of attention, but also within the budget that we have that goes through March of 2025. So can I ask for any volunteers to review the UTXO Alliance leadership application form, which I am putting into chat here? And may need to request access, but is anyone or anyone that can speak for a representative within their ecosystem able to review this and have a conversation with our operations team about it?
I'll volunteer.
Was that Matt?
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. I will ensure that you have, okay, and James, don't, all right. So I think that would be helpful, James and Matt, if we could talk about that and give a little bit of insight about how you guys who've been here for a long time would see those leadership roles being filled, that would be great. I will get that scheduled. Matt and James, review feedback. Staff schedules, meeting. Okay. Another thing that came up in the past month was, Matt, you said that you were in conversation with the CEO from TAN, or yeah. Can you share anything more about what we might do from the content working group's point of view? I know that they may have are going through a transition, are using the UTXO model. Any other information there, and how do you think we should move forward?
Yeah, I think we really need a second speaker that can speak to the UTXO model from a developer's perspective. Yeah, my conversations with him were it was pretty quick. He was just like, yeah, like let's do it. He seemed really interested. Yeah, I think it's really just a matter of organizing the content. I think that the questions are relatively easy. I think that the topics are going to be pretty straightforward. I see the fuel ecosystem, advocating for a lot of the things that from the Nervo side, things we've advocated for as well. Things like account abstraction, to use a buzzword, and yeah, I think it really is just a matter of lining up a second speaker. Yeah, I guess for anyone who didn't catch the conversation on Discord, yeah, it's just a builder that's moving from the Ethereum ecosystem to building on Fuel, which is a UTXO based layer 2 that came out of the Ethereum ecosystem.
Very interesting, very compelling. So what we need is I volunteered to host the meeting through the UTXO Alliance Twitter, but what we would need is somebody in conversation that can speak developer and can kind of bridge a few different models and architectures. Does anyone feel comfortable doing that, or can think of somebody from their ecosystem that's, worth doing some of that conversation or business development? Or do we, you know, let me just pause there. Is there anybody that would like to volunteer to join us? And Matt, would you be there in the conversation too?
When I first thought of the idea that notion was in there, but then when I thought about it later, I'm not so sure. I'm happy to kind of like provide input from like a similar like moderation kind of standpoint.
Mhm.
But yeah, I
Okay.
think mostly I think these guys should talk about developer things.
Developer included in meeting. Okay. So let's say if there's not one forthcoming at the moment, that is a request put into the technical Discord group. We would be asking for an hour 15 to engage in a conversation. Hopefully it'd be somebody that is interested in what they're building and knows about why or what kinds of things they might talk about. So request into Discord. Okay. Clips from the conversation with Lars of IOG. We've mentioned this, that are things that we need to pull out. Again, in the upcoming working group, which is slated for 2 weeks from today, Ignacio is organizing a continuation of the UTXO visualizations. He already has things built for Hydra, but there's obviously a long list of members and UTXO chains that we have not covered yet. At the very least, we'll have the blurb explanation of each chain and logo, but we do need kind of the time to dive into the technical aspects of it and simplify it into the visuals that we've been using. So please, for representation purposes, if you have, if you're, if we haven't covered that, your member chain yet in the document, to please show up to that working group. I just went over the leadership application. We're still getting the website updated. So a few technical difficulties, and this may not be a conversation for today, but the question around how does one take this organization truly into Web3 and use our own, eat our own dog food to, you know, manage leadership, manage voting, manage a treasury, and get new sources of funding. That's, I think, an important thing that we cover going into 2025. So that probably comes off the back of a leadership update. But I wanted to just put it out there that this is an important part for a operations working group. Again, that meeting will be hosted in 2 weeks from today for anyone to jam on and come up with your best ideas. This is how we collaborate. Please make sure that you do make your best effort at attending the UTXO Alliance working groups. And we'll go now to open mic. Any thoughts, comments, requests, wish list items to share from the past 35 minutes?
Not so much from the past 35 minutes, but it's a potential content request item. Having a one-pager that summarizes what the UTXO's Alliance is about, links to key resources, all of that sort of thing, will be really useful for me within an IO at least, to be able to circulate amongst IO internal stakeholders and say, hey, are you aware of all of this? Are you aware of the content that's available? Are you aware that this is a channel? This is how you get engaged with it? All of these sorts of things. But having it just simplified in one page will make it easier to activate people. And I suspect you're probably going to find the same in many of the other ecosystems as well, as you're trying to explain what the UTXO Alliance is, where they fit in, and what it kind of gives to the people that you want to engage with it. Because I think that way it might draw people into some of the technical working groups, and they can see the affordances of that, or the content working groups if they're more on the marketing side, perhaps. You know, this kind of thing would be good. I think a while ago I sent you a very draft one-page approach. If there's a way of turning something like that, doesn't have to look like that at all, but something that's simple like that, I think that would be quite effective. But be good to hear if other people on the call would find that valuable.
I did receive that. I think what needs to be added is the mission, vision, values, and we did speak a bit about that in previous UTXO meetings. But the one pager with links, yeah, no doubt is useful. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think especially as the UTXO model continues to get more adoption, more awareness. I think being able to quickly get across to people what we're doing. Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
So second question I had actually was about missing members or missing blockchains that we want to be more active or be participating in the UTXO Alliance. Do you have a hit list of people you want to see joining? And if so, how can we help you get them to join?
We have a list of all UTXO chains. One member that's in the crowd today, Jose, maybe you could come off mute and talk a little bit about, you know, what what brought your attention to the UTXO Alliance? And then I know that you and I have had individual conversations, but from your point of view, what was like a good point of why you might start participating more? And then I think you're operating in various ecosystems. What would be your recommendation for how to engage new teams if you're able to talk right now?
Greetings, everyone. This is Jose from the Digibike community. And what drew my attention to the UTXO Alliance was that there is an opportunity for the UTXO model of chains to be able to, collaborate. And there was an interview. It was last year. It was Hans from Topple who said it best. The Ethereum chain are doing are pulling all their resources to improve the EV model. So with the UTXO Alliance, it's basically doing the same thing. Pulling in all its resources, and the idea is that what we as a whole can accomplish is better than what a person, what one individual chain can accomplish by itself. So I truly, I'm bought into that idea that if if I want to see Digibite improve, we gotta make these connections with these other blockchains, UTXO model blockchains, but build that rapport. And I think that that's one of the things that I and a few other people, we've been reaching out to other communities and just building that rapport. And I share with them too. If right now they're not members of the UTXO Alliance, I tell them about it, and hopefully they can join and also bring resources for everyone.
Thank you. I think it is a lot about the rapport, at least having more than one touch point. I know that we had a bunch of people traveling to various conferences over the past month. Matt, I think you spoke to this person virtually or in person, that then led to maybe we should have a conversation about this. And then if the UTXO Alliance hosts that meeting and something positive happens from that whole interaction, they see the value of joining up or linking up, kind of is the rolling the ball to engaging them to join. And then why is it sticky enough to stay around, have a representative appear at these meetings and work in the working groups, so that they can justify why the time is worth it. So Matt, did you meet in person, and was that a conference?
No, that was online. I think I think to me it's pretty clear like who we should, I guess, target in terms of I guess the more prominent and more exciting UTXO based projects. And then if we do that, then lots of other people will come along as well. I think that it is all networking, to your point here. But I think an important precursor is having clarity around exactly what we're doing and what, I guess, why people would want to join. I think we had a long back and forth between some members of the Bitcoin Cash community, I guess Nervos community, Bitcoin Cash community, about the UTXO Alliance. And a lot of the outcome from that is that it really is kind of unclear, what exactly we're doing and what we're aiming towards doing. And that I think we're really working at improving that. I think it's amplified by the fact that something like Bitcoin Cash is a community. It's not like a company. So in that context, it gets even more unclear of like, it's not like just a representative of the company joins. It's like who in the community would be a good fit for joining this kind of thing. What is the capacity that we're asking of these projects? And I can see with this engagement formality we're improving on that front, but I think we really do need something like a one pager that can can make it clear to people in a quick way what we're doing.
I think one thing that um, like what we're doing from a larger perspective is kind of like hangs on some technical innovation that is shared between, or something that is worth working on together, that isn't um, necessarily just in the best interest of one. And I think that's what few things have been proposed about what that could be. I think James brought to at least my attention, Hydra could be one of those things. I know that a few other members have brought up what Nervos is building as, and like the direction that Nervosa offers as a way to work between each other. Then there are people that we bump into, like Jose here, in virtual spaces where they find that overlap and are representing or capable of representing or willing to represent a community rather than a specific company. And then with a team like the University of Zurich Blockchain Center, do you have researchers who want to focus on some of these key innovations and draw the learnings from between each one? And then part of it is, you know, getting the right volunteers, getting the right additional help, and then getting out of the way and giving some leadership opportunity is, I think, a next thing. And then, yeah, like it'd be great to have a one page that conveyed all of that succinctly, clearly, beautifully. And it was as simple as, here's what we do, come show up. And then what they show up to is exactly that. And all of those things are, you know, probably happening, but could happen faster. And um, all just more of the same, more and trying new things. Uh, I think some stuff is working. I think that we just kind of it would be great if there was a clear technical achievement that we are all excited and focused on. But maybe that's the wrong thing to place attention on. I don't know. Uh, James, I actually would be curious to know, uh, having seen this iterate a few times, if you have any new opinions on it.
Um, I mean, I think I overall agree that the having a thing we can focus on would be useful, but it's the uh, like overall buy-in that kind of goes to Jose's point. I believe it was Jose, that we kind of have to have buy-in, like a multilateral buy-in. Um, so I'm not really sure if the Hydra, uh, like state channels as a overall technology seems like a useful thing, but um, ultimately we're all like limited, or each chain is like resources are I'm sorry, developers are a limited resource. Um, so I mean, we've never really had a single-minded goal that we've been like moving towards.
Yeah,
Yeah, I do think that idea of eventually channels connect to all of these chains To me, it seems like an end game. I think even from the start of the UTXO Alliance, I think like one of the first exercises was just everyone, put out your crypto primitives on a spreadsheet and let's see what's compatible with what. I think that's a great end game for basically how do we get to like the blockchain utopia. But in terms of like when I talk about like a thing to like what do we do, I don't think of it so much as like a task, but just like a mission. So if we want to like increase awareness and knowledge and collaboration across ecosystems, yeah, I think making the case that realizing that idea of channels crossing chains is getting closer. At least just seeing the work that our ecosystem has done this year with Lightning. I don't think it's as far off as it used to be. So like the idea of like CKB and Hydra working together, like of course people have to put in the work, and like James said, everyone has limited resources. But I think in terms of like championing that vision, I think it's something definitely that's practical today.
Of that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so I'm on a summit at the Cardano summit that's coming up in Dubai on accelerating blockchain adoption in enterprise. And one of the things that, as I've like put together my notes for that, is just kind of going like to more first principles in terms of like what are actually the challenges in blockchain overall, and then what are the challenges in UTXO, like UTXO versus account model, and starting there. Like, and so that may be something to like think about. It doesn't yield like immediate answers, but it's something to think about in terms of how to reorient an examination of the problem, right? Which is again like the challenges that blockchain faces as a whole in terms of adoption, and then like dropping down to UTXO model versus account model in terms of adoption. And then, for constituent, remember, you can see how it just kind of keeps going down to where you are. But so if you kind of go down this tree in a way that like, even with Ethereum and, whatever else that might be out there, Ethereum type chains, there's still, how do we get blockchain adoption? So we even share that in common, right? And then on the UTXO versus account model, it's again like now there becomes another layer of like what challenges do we face in that kind of area? And it sounds very simple, but that's actually where I'm going back to as I try to prepare for this panel stuff. And so one thing I would say in that regard is one thing that we've said previously is just the education and understanding of UTXO model versus account model. While it's boring in a way to keep talking about it, it's something that my guess is like many of the non-technical people, myself included, like I can explain it to a certain extent, I can talk about it, but I can't go into unique specific advantages consistently, succinctly, cogently in a way that I think we would want. And that all of the chains and engineering groups and even the academic groups are interested in. So that's kind of what I would say there. And there's certainly other things like, as people were saying, technical and otherwise, but any of those kind of unifying things also then take a focus of resources that people would also agree to. So just, some thoughts and kind of something to think about in that regard. And I'm also happy to maybe in a couple of weeks share kind of more of that brainstorming that I did in like a Google Doc or something.
Great. That's it worth being able to champion and succinctly talk about the whole ecosystem down and where the various adoption occurs. I think we want to support people like yourself, John, who are at conferences who get the chance to champion UTXO Alliance principles at that moment and equip you with the tools, resources, and like one-liners or visuals or confidence and pointers towards you know, a handbook that says, here they are, check them out, and here are some trade-offs.
This got me thinking about something else as well, which is basically the gives and gets that you would want between different chains, you know. So effectively, we're all in one happy UTXO family and alliance here. Now let's look at what we can give each other, what we can get each other at that more fundamental level, and then use the UTXO alliance to facilitate that value exchange in a much more considered way, much more intentional way. And it's kind of feels like we kind of touch on that area a bit with the technical working groups, the content working groups, but we may need to abstract up a level again and think about the classes of problems you can solve in the technical domain and also the content domain that really fulfill the right value exchange for the gives and gets there. It's that may sound a little bit abstract, but I hope it gives you a bit more of a framework to think about what the great, you know, what this could be, and what the problems are to solve within that. I think it's actually something I want to go away and do a bit more thinking about, and try and articulate it a bit better as well. But any other thoughts from people, very welcome. And yeah, think about how the UTXO Alliance could drive that value exchange for all chains.
Yeah. Anything else to add to those directions or comments or other questions? Anyone?
So, Rupert, are you going to be in Dubai? By the way,
Sadly not. We were planning on it, but it kind of last minute changes shifted direction somewhat. So I'm not going to be there. So unfortunately, I won't be seeing you in person.
Because what I was going to say is I'm happy to both do like some initial jump starting on that before kind of turning it over more broadly. And I'm happy to work with you at some point if you want to just you and I have a brainstorm about it. And if anyone else wants to join, you know, great to have you. But that may be something that we could just sit down and do and just start from blockchain to UTXO to the constituent chains. And then think about more of like, what are the challenges, other stuff, you know, at a more high level, just, you know, start again from the top.
Yeah, I mean,
and
absolutely.
perhaps do something like that.
It's things like bridging technologies, things like you know, lightweight nodes with Mithril, things like Hydra, achieving speed on the L2 level. They're all sort of examples of, oh, it's kind of interesting to learn what another ecosystem's doing and how that might apply to another ecosystem. And I'm sure there are similar equivalents in other ecosystems as well here. So it's maybe being a bit more systematic about the categorization of that would be a really good starting point. So I think that's 3 right away in terms of looking at it, but there may well be a number of others to sit on top of it. And actually, there's probably also a research piece that sits on top of that. I've been currently building a framework to look at competitive and ecosystem intelligence and just how you can look at it in a more structured way. And again, it's sort of it begs the question when you're building one of these kind of programs, what's the question you're actually trying to answer and solve for? And it tends to be that's quite a dynamic problem. It's changing all the time. But often you don't know what you don't know. So it makes it even harder. But the very beginning point of, you know, opening yourself up to the right channels to look at them and knowing what you could learn from them is a really good start. And at the moment, I kind of feel often within our ecosystems, we can be a little bit siloed. We can be anchored in doing the day-to-day and not looking about what we can learn from other people. And I think the UTXO Alliance has got this potential to act as a real bridge that brings innovation and value across these different chains, which makes them all go faster and more effectively. And I think that's where we need to anchor things.
Well said. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. This was in sort a breakout room here at the end. So thanks for everyone offering their feedback. Good few takeaways from ourselves for the content operations team. For some of those things to be completed, I will follow up James, Matt, Rupert, Ignacio, and John. And thanks everyone for spending your hour here with the UTXO Alliance October Town Hall. That's it. Everyone have a great day.
Take care, and thanks for hosting stuff.
You got it. Thanks all.
I appreciate
Bye.
it. Thanks, Deb. Bye, everyone.